Isabel, let's talk about the migrant crisis, because Suella Braverman got up the day before yesterday, made an awful lot of good noises, I think, for the Tory party faithful, said that she wanted to do loads of things, said she couldn't do them now. And meanwhile, we get more and more and more people. It's another lovely day today, blue sky, no clouds, probably another 1,000 people will cross today. There's a real disconnect, isn't there, between those of us who believe that the human traffickers must be stopped, those of us who believe that, you know, loads and loads of Albanians coming here is not a good thing, they're not running away from war, and those on the left who think that we're all racists and we should shut up and we should stop trying to be cruel.
Have you seen, Mike, the new video from the Refugee Council? I mean,
yes.
There are so many things to make one's blood boil.
Yeah.
But just for the sake of our viewers and listeners that haven't seen this video, let me describe how a succession of lovey A-list Hollywood types bleat about how people who are coming over, fleeing war in wheelchairs, I'm not making this up, fleeing in wheelchairs should not be criminalised. Now, let me be clear that this succession of actors who appear in the video are British actors, and this is a British thing. So they are clearly framing this as to say that it is wrong to criminalise these poor people who are coming over in their boats, heavily pregnant, old ladies, disabled people. I would love to get those lovies down on the beaches in Dungeness to actually see who really is coming off the boats. Yeah. Because, of course, none of us here want to criminalise heavily pregnant women fleeing from bombs and bullets, nor do we want to criminalise disabled people fleeing from bombs and bullets. But the reality is that most, or at least a very significant number of those coming over in the boats are economic migrants. They're not fleeing war zones, and even if they were, there were plenty of other places they could have stopped off en route. And so they are actually committing crimes in using a route that they know to be illegal, and they may be up to a great deal worse. Yeah. I am heartily sick, and I'm sure that many people listening and watching this are sick of hearing the Tories telling us what they're going to do, and none of it ever happening.
Yeah. It is incredible. And let's face it, anything that involves Emma Thompson, which the Refugee Council video does,
wearing a pink dungarees,
hypocrite in chief. You know, I preferred her in Nanny McPhee, to be honest. I don't like her doing these real-life sort of cameos where she pretends to be a bleeding-heart liberal, flying in at last minute, you know, from Los Angeles first class because she wants to save the planet. I mean, you know, just get lost. Thanks very much indeed. But you're absolutely right. But again, it's this whole kind of hate fest, as I mentioned before, with these people who stand outside Tory party conference spitting and sort of shouting at anybody who's going in because we are supposedly, as the Tory party, you know, the cruel people. And, you know, anybody who doesn't believe in saving the world and letting everybody in, no matter who they are, is some kind of maniac. And it's ridiculous. It's got to stop, hasn't it?
There's nothing good and kind about encouraging a never-ending stream of people to risk their own lives in these perilous waters, playing into the hands and feathering the nests of criminal gangs, and in so doing, adding to a weight of migration that quite simply the public services in this country cannot manage. Now, I'm sure we'll get on to the nurses, or you will later in the programme, but when people are wondering why doctors and nurses and teachers and so many other public sector workers are so stretched and overworked, it's partly because there is a massive increase in demand on those services, and part of that is a sheer numbers thing.
Of course.
Quite literally, the population is continuing to grow, and so far from falling since Brexit, we're actually bringing more people in. I'm all in favour of bringing in the brightest and the best. I don't care what nationalities they are. This isn't a race.
And also, isn't it interesting that, you know, they talk about, you know, exporting racism and sending brown people to Rwanda. You know, the large bulk of the people coming now on these boats are Albanian, who the last time I checked are not brown or black.
Absolutely ridiculous. Projecting racism onto an issue that has nothing to do with racism, nothing whatsoever. This is about whether or not we have unlimited capacity in this country to take anyone who wants to come here. Now it would be a lovely, luxurious position to be able to welcome anyone, although I'd rather not have Albanians if they have a criminal background or criminal intent. But we as a country do not have that infrastructure. So it's about how we manage the numbers in a realistic way. And the Tories have had 12 years to sort this out.
Yes.
And I remember David Cameron in opposition in the run-up to 2010 saying that he wanted to bring net migration below 100,000. That was more than 12 years ago, and where are we now?
Yeah, not in a very good place at all. And as I mentioned to you, I mean, you were out in Italy recently following the election of Giorgia Meloni as the new Prime Minister, a bit of a lurch to the right. Similar things have happening in Sweden. You know, Western Europe has had enough. We're sick to the back teeth of this open door policy introduced by Angela Merkel, which has basically ruined Europe.
Yes, and you know, the election of Giorgia Meloni is directly linked to frustration in parts of Italy with what they see as uncontrolled migration, mainly coming from North Africa. It's kind of a different situation to what we're in. But, you know, you let this continue at your peril as politicians. And I just think the Tories have run out of road on this. But what's very dispiriting is that I have no faith whatsoever that Labour are somehow going to sort it out. It's not like if the next administration is a Keir Starmer administration, perish the thought that this is going to get better. I should think it will get massively worse. And I think there are many fronts on which the Conservatives deserve to lose the next election. And if there are still boats coming over the channel full of illegal migrants when we go to the polls, then, you know, on their shoulders be it.
Well, exactly. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn has been tweeting recently about how we must have not only open door policy for everybody who wants to arrive on our shores. He says we need a humane immigration system grounded in compassion, dignity and respect. No, we don't. We need an immigration system that has a bloody door which you have to open if you want the person who's standing on the other side of it to come in. And if you don't want them to come in, they don't come in. Simple.
Absolutely. Well, as our friend, talk presenter Richard Tice says, zero tolerance, net zero illegal migration. I think everyone's absolutely sick to the back teeth of this issue. It is about numbers, not nationalities. Get a grip.
Yeah, absolutely. Final question for you, Isabel. The nurses, potential nurses strike coming up. You know, my belief is that if you want to work in the NHS, you should not be allowed to go on strike. It's a national health service. It is not something which is at your beck and call. And if you don't like the money, go and do something else.
Well, I mean, I would extend that to the rail workers, honestly. I think this has just become completely ridiculous, the waves of strike. I don't think people of course have a right to withdraw their labour, but in my opinion, they don't then have a right to expect a job at the end of it. Yeah. So if you want to withdraw your labour, good luck to you, go and get a job somewhere else. I do think nurses are underpaid, but their demand is unrealistic. They're asking for something like 17% rise. And look, we're just not in an environment where that's possible.
And again, the NHS is to blame here because they're paying agencies much, much more money for nurses to cover the shortfall, which means that inevitably people who sometimes work as nurses will go to those private agencies because they get paid more money for doing the same job. As ever, the system is broken.
As ever it is. And look, we could be here all day if we wanted to have a discussion about everything that is wrong with the NHS, something that could be so magnificent and is endlessly crippled by bad management. Not bad people, but bad management.
Yeah, absolutely right. Good to talk to you as well. Thank you very much indeed. Isabel Oakeshott, talkTV's international editor.